Okay, we're live. All right, perfect. All right, welcome to our inaugural episode of Finding Truth on the Unscripted Truth TV channel on YouTube. I'm the co host, Logan, and then I have my other co host right down here, Austin. And we're going to be trying to make this a bi weekly, monthly little soiree where we go over some hot topics to us, maybe field some emails or suggestions from anybody who ends up viewing this as to what we should cover. And what we're going to do is be going over a lot of conspiracy. I hate to say that word on episode 1, but a lot of that, and applying a gematria lens, logistical lens, what we think about it from our combined experience with certain topics we've covered and looked into. And without further ado, I will send it over to Austin, who we're going to be talking a lot about Kurt Cobain and some other things today, but I think we're going to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with Kurt Cobain. I guess just start off just talking about the gematria of Kurt and everything. Kurt, obviously it equals 29, just like the month of April. April equals 29, and 29 is the 10th prime number. And 109 is the 29th prime. So 29 is a big number. I'm 29, so golden. So, and like I said, go figure, he dies in the month of April. They both equal 29. Kurt also equals 38. Gematria equals 38. Death, murder, killing, RIP equals, 38 is pretty much about the biggest number in gematria, one of them. So, and then as well, you have Cobain. Cobain equals 44.
Yes,
Kill
sir.
equals 44. Shooting equals 44. And he died, of course, 44 days after his birthday. And then you have, Cobain also equals, 26. So that's, so God equals 26. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. So that's pretty interesting as well. Kurt Cobain equals 42, like Austin equals 42, Jesuit 42. So 42, another big number. Kurt also, in the 27 club, we all know the 27 club is a big thing as well. Jimi Hendrix from Seattle is in there as well. And then Kurt Cobain, of course, died April 5th, 94. And we all know he died, Bill and Melinda Gates were married January 1st, 1994. 94 days later, Kurt Cobain dies in 94. And he died 206 days from Bill Gates' birthday.
Area code.
In the 206 area code. So that's, very well orchestrated there in that way. Of course, you have, like I said, he died, in Seattle on April 5th, the 95th day of the year. That's, the World Trade Center is open on the 94th day of the year, just the day, April 4th, just that day before. So there's that other 94. World Trade Center equals 94. Twin Towers equals 49, the reflection. So, that's, and how Seattle used to be called New York or Elkai. Seattle used to be called New York or Elkai. And I didn't even know that till just like recently, just like a year or two ago, I figured that out. So, but, there's so many connections. The materials used to build the World Trade Centers come out of Seattle. So it's so well tied in, Seattle 19, of course we had COVID-19. And of course, the more mockery, like 9/11, Nirvana, they put out, Nevermind in 1991. So there's the 9/11. And then of course, he dies, well, that was 10 years before 9/11. Of course, that album came out. And he dies just 3 years later in 94. And April 5th, Lane Staley died on April 5th, the 95th day of the year. It's like the Jesuits wrote the 95 Theses. And what's, it's interesting is, even like Scott Weiland, he died in Minnesota. Minnesota equals 38. So you have so much of these grunge people, involved in this. Chris Cornell on the, with 201st day of the year when Chester Bennington supposedly killed himself on Cornell's birthday, Cornell there in May. So in the same exact year. So just the way they go about doing all this, and there's so many ways, you look at all of this, like the Lane Staley, how it's the same exact day, but maybe it was because 9/11 happened, distracted people from seeing it. Maybe they would have caught on, or it would have been more obvious. But again, they have to put that date out there, April 5th. And that's just, there's another Seattle musician that died on that day as well. So it's just absolutely ridiculous, for people that know and pay attention. But like I
Yeah, it's
was saying,
beyond coincidence.
yeah,
There's no point. It's like there's certain events that when your eyes are open and you've been tuned into that how the show is given to us. There's certain things that are just like we know for sure exactly that we know that the air of legitimacy is zero with these stories. Um, the logistics of how they did it, or if it's even real, that's going to take a little bit more work on the human race's part. But as far as like just from the outside looking in, you know I could tell somebody straight up that Chris Rock didn't get slapped. It's like there's certain things that you can just like where people you'll see 90% of the people still trapped thinking that there's an air of legitimacy to this, when if you just cross that threshold to where you're not believing every single thing that's given to you at face value, you'll start to see the holes, and you start peeling back those holes and you realize there's a whole lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like how Courtney Love's birthday is 95 days, after the day Kurt Cobain dies, and he dies the 95th day of the year. 95 days later, Courtney Love's birthday, and then she blows up in 95, and then same thing with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, and go figure their first album is it's got a gun on it, just like more mockery. Like, why would your first album have a gun on it? So it's like, it's just the way it's just so. And like, where was Chris Cornell, or I mean, where was Chris Novoselic, and where was Dave Grohl when all this was going on? I've never found or seen any video of them talking about like where they were during this time, like why they weren't trying to like find and look for Kurt Cobain, how they just were somehow out of the picture. It's just so obviously orchestrated when you look at these people around. And
I mean,
I can narrow it down. Like I said, there's 4 people I have in mind as, main suspects is who did murder Kurt Cobain, and who knows if it is one of them or not. But, as like we're saying, there's only so much, so far you can figure out and see and look into these things, and what you can, how far you can unlock all the information and what you can know, because there is just so much debate. Like how 9/11, just like on how 9/11 there was the passports were found.
yeah,
They
of course.
recovered passports, and complete total devastation, and they knew exactly who did it, and he did it with a cell phone in 2001. Like, what was he using, a Sprint, Altel singular wireless? Like, I couldn't figure out how to do that with my phone today. So it's just, these stories are just, when you really look into it, you don't see all the numbers and the gematria, but when you apply it and you look into how accurate and calculated and how just perfectly orchestrate all this is, you'll see exactly how they're pulling it off and who's doing it. I mean, it's just, there's a riddle to everything they do.
Of course, yeah. They're the world is their stage, and a lot of people, I think, it's hard for them to wrap their mind around maybe even the motive, how they would do it, certain things like that. But but that's without being able to separate themselves from the actual act itself. Like us normal people, of course, we can't like instinctively know how someone would go about doing this. We don't have those kind of resources. We're not like this this show they put on for us is entertainment enough for us to not look into things. Whereas these are people that are born into a world that has no entertainment like given to them. They make their entertainment. And I'm not that I still 100% believe that there is a almost well, not almost, a religious aspect to dates and certain things. Like they have to follow a certain trend, but for a lot of it there's just too many jokes. There's too many jokes to say that it's like this is like any kind of like outside power affecting this, and like maybe they're just maybe it's all just Mercury and he just is joking out there, maybe that's what it is Hermes the trickster is the god of our world, and that's why everything, there's so many jokes within these rituals that I end up seeing. But what I mean to say is that these elite people, they give you bits of it. Like if you ever watch Game of Thrones, the the king to be, Joffrey, the prince, he was not a normal human. He was not entertained by the normal things, the bread and circus that the peasants were entertained by, because he lives in a world that's been, it's completely different. He's also privy to the fact that he is different. And so these people know they're different, and we'll get into who these people are. But they not only know they're different, but it gets to be an active expression, I believe, for them to, I apply this a lot to, since we're talking about music, I see this a lot in the music industry. I don't see a whole lot of difference in music. A lot of it boils down to almost the same exact story, which I can get into in a later episode, because it does deserve its own episode. I've done a lot of digging on this, but I feel like they're following a script, but within that script, they get to dog whistle to each other to say, look at how I did this part. Look how different I did it. Look at the art I made. Whereas, all the script says is you got to include this number, this date, this number, this date. Well, look how I did it. I had Kurt Cobain blow his brains out on 4/5 when, blah, blah, blah. Or, he 44 days after his last birthday, his name equals 44, kill equals 44, shooting equals 44, Seattle equals 44. I had him do it in Seattle, Washington, 94, and the 94th. They have these numbers criteria they follow, but it's almost like an art project for them, and how they get to arrange it in the news for us.
Yeah, it really is, because I mean, you gotta, and like I said, I don't know how exactly they pull all this off, and how they do it so perfectly and stuff, but I mean, yeah, it's just amazing how much time they have just, invested to get it all, because just like, think about how perfect COVID was. Seattle, Corona means crown, first cases here in King County in Seattle, Corona crown, COVID-19, Seattle equals 19 years for that. There was, the 19 hijackers on 9/11, 19 years for that. There was the war on drugs, and 19-year cycle of the moon. So, they have all these numbers set to go with these rituals, and it's just amazing how they play it out so perfectly. Like I was saying, and in Seattle, and then Washington equals 94,
Mm-hmm.
and I think 49, like Twin Towers equals 49. World Trade Center's open on 94th day of the year. World Trade Center equals 94. So it's just, they have, they really script this stuff well. I don't know if you've ever seen the Flipper the Dolphin shirt Kurt Cobain would wear, but it would show look like a plane
Should be
going
still
into
here. I think I just had my thing cut out. No, I don't remember the Flipper the Dolphin shirt.
Yeah, it's supposed to have like the 9/11 where like the planes like going into the 11 on the, or the one of the ones that's supposed to be like one of the buildings, so it's like supposed to have
And what'd you say it was again?
the Kurt Cobain 9/11, or Kurt Cobain Flipper the Dolphin shirt.
Okay. I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, you see that little thing at the top, it looks like a plane like going
Oh, yeah.
and the way he'd wear it and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing.
Interesting. Okay, let me There we go. You still hear me all right?
Yeah, I still hear you.
So yeah, that's another. I mean, a lot of symbolism is used, of course, especially in the music industry. That seems to be like their number one favorite thing to do.
And like Smells Like Teen Spirit, I Feel Stupid and Contagious is a perfect song for COVID. And like I said, Nirvana and Nevermind in 1991, just like 9/11's right there. There's the 9/11 right there in the numerology, and the way how that was 10 years before 9/11 in 2001. So they just have all this stuff set to go, and they just play it out however they want to do it.
I wanted to point something out too, what's with it, which is interesting. I don't know if I doubt that's a picture of him, of course, but it's like it's a picture of a baby, and he's like what seems to be like chasing the dollar, like almost willing to kill himself for it because babies can't swim. He's underwater chasing a dollar, which kind of is interesting. There's a lot of interesting thing about his death photos or whatever, the crime scene photos. Seems very staged in my opinion. But of his things left, look at what's left. You telling me this millionaire only had enough for $1? He only had $1 in his pocket.
Yeah, and it's just you look at the photos of like the people in there, like the photos of the people at the crime scene and stuff. They all look like they're just like laughing.
It's
like
a photo shoot.
Yeah, it's a joke. Look at them. They're just laughing.
Look at this guy. Look at him cheesing.
Yeah.
He's so happy to be there. And then, I mean, look at this guy. This guy is my favorite. This guy. Come on. In the 90s, these cameras cameras have stayed pretty large, actually. Nice cameras. But these are flash photography cameras, forensic cameras. And you're telling me this is a natural photo, that this old geezer detective just happens to be there, and he's just like, what is this, a popularity contest? Why does he want to look so cool? Like, this shouldn't be like reaching the public in that way. Why is he posing? Why is he doing the foot over? Why is he doing a certain pose that's like occultic, as well as just being so chill? Why are you chill? Shouldn't these pictures show like the detectives working on something, like showing our tax dollars at work, that they're actually deducing something from this crime scene, not just like arms crossed chilling, not just like cheesing and like everybody leaning. It's like, I'm sorry, I watched CSI. I don't remember them just being like, yeah, go ahead and just touch whatever you want, officer. Take no gloves, just go ahead and touch whatever you want in an active crime scene. We are gonna love having all those different fingerprints everywhere, and he's just smiling, and yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, the way they set it up too. I mean, the 20 gauge. He's born on 220, so he's born on 220. They shoot him with the 20 gauge, and they really a double shooting because supposedly overdosed him and heroin and diazepam and other things, and then of course shooting him as well. So, and then you have if you know the Tom Grant situation, he was there, and he went there when all this is going on, and he even said, I was in the house. I'm a police. I'm a detective. Like, well, why can't I come in? Why can't I talk to people? And they're like, yeah, they said they have nothing to talk to you about. You can't, they don't want to talk to you right now. They said you can call back later or something. It's like, this guy's been in the house, has evidence. He's, been trying to help out and, be part of this. And then he gets deterred away. You just see the way they went about doing it. And of course, it was the electrician that found the body. Of course it would be him and, not Tom Grant. However, they managed to pull it off. So he was hidden in there. Like I said, I got the people I think that I would say murdered him would have to be either there's obviously there's another big conspiracy that ties in with this that I'll add in too, because a lot of people say the guy that killed him is Alan Wrench.
What?
I forget. Yeah, I forget what he equals.
Bob the Builder character.
But he made a video. Al Ducey was the one that called him out on it. That Courtney Love offered me $50,000 to murder Kurt Cobain, and people didn't think he was serious. But he's like, yeah, I'm dead serious. She gave me 50 grand. And then they made a video, and it was in 1997. And I think it was in April. And then on April 19th, 1997, so 2 years after Oklahoma City, on April 19th, very significant date, they murdered El Duce on the train tracks. His body was found, and people think it was Alan Wrench that Courtney Love gave the 50 grand. There's also a video on YouTube where Alan Wrench is talking about it, saying that he did indeed kill Kurt Cobain for 50 grand. Then it was found out he got a bunch of money, got a bunch of stuff, and like got a Corvette out of it. So it's like, yeah, maybe that is true. Maybe that's what happened. I mean, he did come out and admit it, so maybe he did, maybe he's just messing. But otherwise, people I think that may have did it. His best friend Dylan Carlson, setting him up, uh, setting the whole thing. Not even giving a fuck about Kurt, just taking Courtney's side, not even caring about you know, Kurt at all or doing anything for him. Just not. He was definitely in on it. Callie DeWitt, the nanny that was at the house, he was staying at the house, so and then Jessica Hopper too, she was staying with him. So there's two more people. Like I said, Dylan Carlson, I don't know where Dave Grohl was. Obviously Courtney Love was in LA, setting the whole thing up, being told whatever she probably was told the skit of what to do and how to set Tom Grant up. And I don't know what really all happened with Tom Grant too, because I know he's a detective and he's part of it too in police. But I think he just kind of got, after that Soaked in Bleach came out in 2015, it's kind of like that's all that's really been. And there hasn't, there's been a lot of documented stuff that's came out. There's been a lot of information on Kurt that's came out. Like I always say, it's just amazing that we have all this evidence and nobody goes after people, and nobody's questioning Dave Grohl or ask Dave Grohl or Courtney Love or talk about how are they not being with all the information that's out. People like Alan Wrench, if he's even still alive, if he did it, if someone killed him or whatever Alan Wrench has got going on, if he did it, or whether it was, like I said, his best friend Dylan Carlson that was in on it, or Callie DeWitt or the nanny or someone else or whoever else. Maybe it was a team of people, who knows. But it's amazing that no one, this information has been out for so many years and nobody has gone after anybody. Nobody does anything. These people just continue to live on. It just amazes me.
Well, you see how it works. It's I mean, things can be tied up in, as we perceive it, in legitimacy, just based on the ruling of what it was. They ruled it a suicide. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of play off of that. It's going to be, probably people, outside of the like the justice system that are actually conducting investigations independently, because as far as they're concerned, this is a close and shut case. It's, look, we came upon him with the shotgun in his hand and apparently a large wound, because I mean, no picture of it, but no way to tell. But from their end, the only thing they have to cover is that they came upon him with this shotgun, and he's been there for 3 days. There's a lot of holes that I want to cover, but one thing I wanted to point out when you're talking about Courtney Love is I did just a small little smidget of a look into her, and I did notice she's 60, and she's pretty close to 62, and I'm just like putting this out there. Don't be surprised if 62 becomes either a bad year for her. Not to say she hasn't had some already. She's doing fine though, all things considered. Or potentially her death, with 62 being linked to sacrifice as we know it, and also what was it? I have a little thing. Oh yeah, he died 6 weeks and 2 days. So the 44 days after his birthday is also 6 weeks 2 days, like 62. And as far as Courtney Love goes, all I did was really notice. I think about logistics on a lot of things, and I also think about, to me, I brought up Game of Thrones earlier, but when I used to watch Game of Thrones, but I stopped watching it way before it ended. Kind of like woke up to things and shows became not. I can barely watch shows anymore. But what I noticed about that early on, like there's a lot of flash and there's a lot of like exciting things happening, but at its core, that show is about royalty breeding rituals and them keeping bloodlines and a lot like a lot of things are. And people, they have a sensory like knowledge of it, but they don't realize how important that is. And as far as like keeping the famous, keeping that going, you look at someone like Courtney Love. First of all, let's look up. Let's look at her parents. Let's see. Oh, I have to probably click on her thing. So it says here her mom, she doesn't know who her dad is. It's rumored that her dad is Marlon Brando. We'll get into that. But you notice her mother's name, Linda Carroll. And in my little short decode on Kurt Cobain, I've been finding 54s all over the place. Not to mention his date of death can be written 5-4.
Yep.
And we'll get into that importance, I think, right after this, just so we're not like alluding too far into the video about who is truly in our opinions and more than just our opinions behind this. But or these acts, these types of things. But you look at her name, that's a Carol being a famous name. You look at Seattle hosting, one of the few Jesuit universities that Carol's, associated with Jesuit universities, John Carroll, that is. And you look at her and you read her bio and you just come to find out that there's really no reason for her to have the name Carol. Her father's not named Carol. She doesn't know who her father is. And her mom's last name is Fox. And as far as I looked up her as well, and it doesn't say that she goes by any kind of she has a maiden name of Carol or anything like that. So she just gave her name Carol, ended up giving birth to Courtney Love, who eventually marries Kurt Cobain. The rest is history. But then so we've looked up to the people. Now let's look down a little bit. You notice that their child together, Courtney Love and him, is Francis Bean Cobain. Now that's an interesting name. Very close to Francis, as in Pope Francis. That's a bit of a stretch. I'm fine with that being a stretch. But as to my point with bloodlines and keeping the famous people famous, she is currently married to Tony Hawk's son. So you think of the birth of grunge music. Where was that being played at? What were people doing in the vicinity of the birth of grunge? They're skateboarding. As a matter of fact, like a lot of I guess you can start to call it new age because they did have the scene already at first. But as far as popularity, especially global popularity or worldwide popularity, or at least in the States, I know that Tony Hawk Pro Skater propelled a lot of grunge music and that genre of music. So just to see that he now is in the mix with the Cobain family, the Hawk Cobain family, it just kind of goes to show that it's more than just like convenient stories. These things are arranged beforehand. They're necessary. I'm sure at some point in Kurt Cobain's career, he knew that his daughter was, not his daughter. He had her for an agenda, and people are human at the end of the day, and they might have signed on a dotted line at some point, but I'm sure that realization hits them at some point, and it makes it a lot harder to fulfill the contract, if you will, or at least it puts a drain on you. And you see that a lot with the drug usage and obviously alcoholism, and which also makes it convenient for the writers of the script to say how you died, because your tail spinning and makes it easy for you to slip, makes it easier for you to have a bad day and grab your 20 gauge.
Right. And this the way they mock you. I mean, Courtney Love's band name is Hole. I mean, come on. I mean, and then, like I said, she blows up in 95, and Bill Gates becomes the world's richest man supposedly in 95. And, Dave Grohl comes out with an album with a gun on it. And just look at Kurt Cobain's, he's talking about a gun in every song. Smells Like Teen Spirit, load up on guns. Talking about guns. Next song is In Bloom. Like, the one that likes to shoot his gun. So he's talking about a gun again. Then Come As You Are, no, I don't have a gun. And then how does he end up dead? Supposedly suicide, as they say. And it's just, the way they set up for the mocking is amazing. And there's so much to all of this. And it's, like I said, you just always keep finding more with something like, Kurt Cobain, because, there is the ties into his kid, Francis Bean and Courtney Love and Dave Grohl. Of course, they're still around. They're still alive. And, it's just like, Nirvana equals, 47, big time number. It's like, building 7, 47 stories tall on 9/11, buildings 1, 2, and 7. So there's like 27 right there. Another mockery. So just the buildings are a giant 1, 2 1. So an 11, the master number. That's why they etch, all his number. Why would they etch all his number on Masonic Temple in Washington, D.C.? And you just see how, with like the Kurt Cobain situation, like I said before, so many things came out of that. You got the copycat suicides. Kurt Cobain killed himself. So now we're sad and depressed and we're going to kill ourselves too. So it was, and then you had people, well, if heroin addicts didn't own guns, then fuck. And then it just gave people a reason to get rid of guns and don't have a gun. And, see what happens if you do heroin and you're a rock star. You see, this is why you got to go to school, kids, and you got to pound those books, and you got to, go to school your whole life because you could end up like Kurt Cobain. So that's how all this started. And it's just like, and you see what that did to society and how it set up for 9/11, because like I said, there wasn't even internet then. And, people like, Trump and Bill Gates and these clowns, they were in the shadows. But out of Kurt Cobain's death, here comes the internet, here comes Bill Gates, here comes Trump, here comes all of this that we have now. And, and it's set up for 9/11, of course. And, when you look at the death of Kurt Cobain, it's kind of like, it really is an interesting time, because then you had the next April was like Oklahoma City, April 19th. And then, like I said, just 2 years later was El Duce being murdered on the train tracks on April 19th, of course. So you just see, that the power of the Illuminati, April 19th, how they just trigger these things and set these things up. And I'm sure, like I said, if Alan Wrench did murder him, and then that's probably, maybe he did murder El Duce, or maybe they were, maybe he probably was in on it too, because he knew it was April 19th. You know what I mean? Like, just the way they have everything just so perfectly in this. And there's so many people that died. I know Courtney Love, they set up somebody, that one of the detectives, Terry, that was involved in the case at the beginning. They set him up on the highway here in I-5, and they had him shot dead. They like pranked him out, said, we had car problems or something, and
Jeez.
called them, and then they were on their way, and then pulled out a gun and just shot him, and then he died later on of just excessive bleeding in the wound and how bad it was. But just the way they took out so many people involved in all this, that that was. And then of course all the other people, Scott Weiland, and then on the same exact day 8 years later, Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, and Chester Bennington, and all of these people that just think it's just suicide, them killing themselves. This is why when you look at this information, you understand the numbers, the numerology, the dates, the gematria. You see that, otherwise, what are these people thinking? They're just going home at night going, yeah, it looks like April 5th coming up again. Yeah, I better get that 20 gauge going so I kill myself at the exact same day Kurt Cobain did, and set up your death. That's what you'd have to be literally saying. It's like, well, Lane Staley was just thinking, oh, I think the best day is to traumatize everyone again on April 5th. That's the day I'm going to do it. Like, what are people really thinking? See, like,
Yeah,
or you can go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's almost to think that people wouldn't even be thinking about themselves. It's like not to be too harsh or anything, but in my opinion, it is a selfish act. So to think that they would be trying to in some way mimic or make it worse for anybody else when guaranteed they have their own stuff they're thinking of. Why would he not be thinking about his daughter? Why would he not be thinking about Courtney Love? Why would he not be thinking about the ones his mom? Why would he not be thinking about his dad? Why would he be or anybody would? But why would anybody be thinking, oh, I should mimic, I should do my best to mimic somebody else's suicide. That's how I'm going to do it. Like, that's their parting thoughts. I find that hard to believe. I think the closer one gets to death at whatever age, I think you have kind of like an awakening or an epiphany regardless. And at the end of the day, these people are humans, and they have to think. They have time, they have dead air where they have to live in their brain, and they have to be thinking about human thoughts. And as crazy as their life might be to the public, these are still humans at the end of the day. You just because you don't like them, that's just the fact. So to think of them as like so robotic, that's I don't think of them as robots. But at the same time, they do have to, for lack of a better term, pay the piper. They have to pay back their debt that they were happy to acquire at some point in their career. And yeah, like I said, I find it hard to believe that they would be, staging it after anybody else's famous suicide or death like that, on their own accord, at least. Like, so yeah, I highly doubt that these didn't have, other handlers involved in order to make these dates happen, and these matching dates, and these things. A couple more things I wanted to point out. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I brought up 54 a bunch, and I have this my little sheet I went through, and this has only took me like 20 minutes of doing a little bit of digging on the subject. Several 54s, a couple of them that aren't. Oh no, I did put Love in there. Love 54, Jesuit Order. That's the big one. That's kind of what we've been alluding to as to the mechanism for how these things could be unfolded. And if you're unaware of the Jesuit Order, they are the military order or military hand of the Catholic Church, a lot like the Knights of Malta, they say were, and other knight organizations, Knights Templar, and all those things. But they are very much open, and to this day doing the Lord's work, or at least the Pope's work. And one of their, they have several different major numbers that they hit rituals on, but 54 is a big one, and that goes with their name, Jesuit Order. And I was kind of alluding to it with the Carroll mentioned earlier, because John Carroll, the prominent Jesuit, 54, you have his death date can be written 5/4, and for as much as it was an American thing, it was a global news story that Kurt Cobain killed himself. So most of the world was writing, he died 5/4. So yeah, let's not to mention Seattle is home to one of the few Jesuit universities, Seattle U. So there's a lot of overlap here with the puppet masters, who, because you hear a lot about the Illuminati. Well, the Illuminati was formed by Adam Weishaupt, the Jesuits. So you look at that, and especially the American branch of the Illuminati, or the evolution of the Illuminati, if you will, from Bavaria. And it's a common joke. But to that extent, I think we kind of need to put a little bit more relevancy on the Illuminati's hand in music and entertainment. It's, yeah, of course it's a joke, ah ha ha ha, but every single day I'm inundated with a new album cover or some video popping up on my YouTube feed with the checkerboard floor, which is Masonic, but it's also an Illuminati thing. The the hand covering the eye, the triangle. We all know the symbols that they like to use over and over and over again. And I think the more we act like it's a joke, the more we'll never truly give enough credence to actually look into exactly, never mind what it means, but what does it mean that it is happening? Can you just are a lot of what I find funny is that you get these personalities that are larger than life, yet they all do the same thing. Like they're being told by the same person to do the same thing. You look at these rebels like Robert Downey Jr. and so on and so on, these big rock band frontmen and everything, and they all do the same symbols that all the other people do. It's almost like counter their persona. It's like these people appear as rebels and you can't contain them, but they all do the same imagery and symbolism, kind of counter to who they claim to be and what could make that happen. Never mind that the fact that it is happening and we all want to think it's a joke. Why is it happening so much? And it's because these are dog whistles. These are proof of purchase, in my opinion. These are, we own you. You're going to do these little things, and these little things turn into, I'm sure, bigger things depending on the level of fame. But the Illuminati, at the end of the day, is beholden to this Jesuit order, and it's pretty evident from my research, but even made more evident through Zach from Gematria Effect News. Been following him for a few years now, and he makes that ever more apparent that once you know the history and once you see point A to point B to C to D, you can track these movements, the movements of these people, and their overarching want to control the hearts and minds of men. And the easiest way to do that is through forms of entertainment, the food, everyday necessities, things like that, and things that pull at the heartstrings, which is, heavily done in entertainment, especially in music. And so I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, the Jesuit order and their role in all of this.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You brought up the Jesuit order in the 54 and, the Cabal 54. And there's so much, his date there. And then, like I said, the Jesuits in 95 Theses, Oklahoma City, 95. Exactly. So and even, you go back, you look at how, the more predictive programming, you look at all the pictures of Kurt Cobain. There's so many pictures of them, with a gun, with a gun to his head or, pointing a gun or something, just all this symbolism, of course, too, before he died, there was the Rome suicide attempt, always that,
yes.
Always got to have the simulation. It's like with 9/11, there was a simulation. And of course we had October 18th, 2019, event 201 for COVID. And this is why people have to catch on to this, because the way the Jesuits work, Klaus Schwab, says you're going to own nothing to be happy. And, of course, Trump and Bill Gates, all these, Jesuit pawns. This is how these people operate consistently. And they recycle this every event. It's the same numbers, the way they mock you. It's the same that they're pulling up for, like I said, with COVID, Smells Like Teen Spirit, stupid and contagious, and just the way they mock you, and they recycle all this stuff for just like with 9/11 with the 19 hijackers, 19 years later, COVID-19, Seattle equals 19. Of course, that's where COVID would have to be, the same place Kurt Cobain killed himself. And they have to keep going back to this. And when people really catch on and they see like the connections to New York, like I was talking about, like most people don't know Seattle used to be called Elkhire, New York. You start learning this information, you learn how connected all of this is and how these people really do operate. Like once it's just not just the numbers. I mean, you learn the numbers, of course, and then you look at this other stuff, and it's just completely undeniable. It really is the proof in the pudding when you really dive deep into it and you just see how much you're being mocked, because most people just they don't see it, like they won't see. Most people don't know Trump had a book out in 2000 talking about 9/11 before it ever happened, and talking about the Osama bin Laden attacks coming in 9/11 and all this, because he was in on it, of course, and he's writing a book to mock you. It's just like he's in the commercial with the sort of mattress ad with sheets 9/11 on pillars, looking
Looking
good,
good.
looking good. Like people just, it's just ridiculous. How, like I said, Trump equals 47, Nirvana 47. It's just, Austin 42, William 40, or Austin 42, Jesuit 42, Kurt Cobain 42. And it's just the way they have to um just overly mock people with the same thing. And that's just what, like I said, what blows my mind, how people don't. But if people knew, if they learn gematria, if they look at the numbers, because I think if that's what it needs to be, is people just come across this information and just, you look at how tied in it all is, and then you just see, Kurt Cobain dies April 4th, the 54 Cabal 54. What other day could it be? And it's just like, what are the chances? And you just see how accurate these people will mock you, and it allows you to see what they're doing, what they're going to do, next. I mean, I don't personally think we have another 19-year cycle to go before things get bad, but I think, a lot of stuff's going to happen before 2039, but hopefully before then people catch on to the 19-year cycle and these numbers, and really start taking it seriously. Because I think a lot of people, they had a chance, in 2020 with COVID to kind of, research. But I still feel like 2020, I could have told you it's gonna be a bad year simply because it was 2020. Like it's just, like I said, they had Event 201 all ready to go. Klaus Schwab, you're gonna own nothing and be happy by 2030. I mean, these people have agendas, they have plans, they have, goals and scripts written to get rid of us. So it's like, this is the point in the time for people to really, hopefully somehow catch on to this information. That's just, I think it's just, people they have to just see it. And I think people just, they haven't really seen how connected it all is. And that's why if people just understood how connected all of this is and how orchestrated it is every day. I mean, just look at the shooting, the Trump shooting, where, two other people were shot and Trump was shot in the ear. Well, they never even showed the people shot. Who was the person that got shot? Who's the person that got shot and died? I didn't see any of that, and there's the camera looking right at the audience. So
I
it's like,
mean,
and then the next one, I mean, it's not an AR this time. It's a black AK-47, just like Trump equals 47. That's why it's got to be an AK-47. Oh, but it's not an AR, but it's, it's still an assault rifle. So then technically it is still an AR, and it's an AK. And it's just the mocking it's just ridiculous.
I mean, and also it being the standard gun for the Russian military, with all that going on right now, and him being tied to Putin forever and forevermore, and his promises to end the Russia-Ukraine war, and I'm sure that the other Israel conflict as well. He said that never would have happened with him in office, and he's close to Putin and all that stuff. And well, why are people with AK shooting at you then? What the heck?
Yeah.
You sure you're that close? But yeah, these things are they're jokes on jokes, and you look at these public figures, especially if you want to go in on Trump. He has been heavily publicized, and what I notice is when you apply the hindsight lens, you got that 2020 vision looking back, but moving forward, this work allows you to catch on to trends a lot easier, a lot better, and see what it would mean for the future. So you look at things that that have happened in the past, and you see what the result came to it in the present, or the recent past, and you say, oh, okay, well, that's you start to pick up on these trends. Well, a lot of what the Cooties did to people. What I noticed of that trend is it's a logistics game. I think a lot of it comes down to how much dissent I think a lot of it is just tracking of dissent, and how many people will go against the curve. And if this percentage of people are the only people that react, and go against the grain, a la not go to their job anymore because they're forcing you to do stuff you shouldn't be able to do, that you're not in contract to do. There's nobody signed contracts to to wear a mask and do all these things if there's a pandemic. First of all, if those contracts existed, those would be sick to show the public. That'd be a pretty big red flag. But there's a lot of unlawful treatment of employees, and look at what came of it. A lot of the things were debunked according to their own science. I see my little brick wall faded, but a lot of those things are debunked according to their science. The masks never worked. Well, what do you got going on right now? Why are people everywhere walking around in masks again? They put all this information out. So I think it's they're tracking how much dissent they're going to get. And on this kind of a scale, they're tracking a whole nation's dissent, nations at a time. I'm sure it's a global thing, but I'm sure they're tracking nation by nation how many people are willing to stand up, or at least go against the grain and not participate in their agenda. And that is going to fuel they'll put that in their algorithm to see what they need to change for the next one. A lot of things come down to what was pretty shocking to me. Do you remember the Damar Hamlin ritual for the Bills? The guy who collapsed on the field?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would be caught up in the story and everything, and obviously it was a Masonic ritual right in front of everybody's eyes, and the Hiram Abiff and all that crazy stuff. That's all fine and well, but I sit there and think, how did they get thousands of people who all bought tickets and just spent $20 a beer, $20 a hot dog? How did they get all those, what are normally, you think of a subsect of America, and if you're going to get a rowdy thing going, you'd think this would be the place to go, is a football stadium with a bunch of, potentially inebriated people. How did they get them to file out? In my opinion, I think a lot of that ritual had to do with seeing how the public would react and how they would move, just in a small section. Yeah, it was a large amount of people, but it was one city, one small part of the city, which is, generally the downtown area. How is moving this amount of people going to work on our infrastructure? How are they going to handle it? Are there going to be an increase in wrecks? Are there going to be, I think about that stuff. I think that the logistics are important to them in calculating an algorithm so that they can have a large, just like placebo effect type of stuff. They're like doing little studies. Like, how will all these people leave, and will they all leave happy? Like, I wouldn't be very happy, but will they be compelled enough because it's a human emergency? Oh, poor guy, he collapsed and he might not live. Well, okay. Well, you got. I know there's somebody waiting to take his spot. The homeboy never even got to play that game. So Drew Bledsoe goes down and Tom Brady's right there. They're not stopping the game. But this guy goes down and they literally stop an NFL game before it's finished. As far as I know, they don't even have rules for that. They had to come up with rules for that. And how are the public going to take that? Think about the people who care about fantasy football as if it's like reality football. What does that,
Exactly. I mean, it's just like the Aaron Charles Rodgers. Like, you wait all year for this guy, and then he just mocks you on the fourth play of the year. I'm hurt. I'm down for the whole year on 9/11 while being a New York Jet. I mean, while he equals 201 and two towers became 0 became 1. It's just, Michael Vick equals 201, goes into Green Bay, goes into Lambeau. they've never lost a home playoff game. It's bigger than winning the Super Bowl. No one's ever beat them there. And the guy who does it equals 201. It's like Aaron Charles Rodgers. It's the most Jesuit team in the league. Vince Lombardi. I mean,
Big old G.
yeah, it's just amazing. And yeah, in the DeMar Hamlin, the collapse. I mean, it's just clowning. You're right. It's amazing how they can just, like they just stop the game and that's it, and it just goes away. It's just the way they bend rules. I mean, I seen them do things in, wrestling and NASCAR like that too, where it's like the match is over and they'll go back in and they'll say it was this, or they'll with
wrestling.
Yeah,
Aaron Charles Rodgers loves his wrestling belt. His move.
Oh yeah, and they got to have the belt. I mean, look at how they have to have the belt. I mean, and if you write out, WWF, it equals 29, just like football equals 29, just like Mahomes equals 29, just like how he got it tied up in NFC, AFC right now, if 29 Super Bowls apiece, and he was the guy to do it, and he just turned 29. So it's just it's people born for the role. I've seen it like NASCAR. They'll change certain things. This guy is not allowed in the playoffs now because he cheated, or we're gonna say he cheated, or this car. Oh, we're gonna say he didn't win, or we're gonna penalize first. Like the way they do manipulate it is crazy, and it really changed. Everything changed after 9/11 with all the sports and everything. When you looked at it wasn't long after that, in May of 2002, the WWF changed to WWE. Then the NFL, they changed up their the way they had their conferences and their brackets for the playoffs and stuff. They changed that up for the 2002 season. And like NASCAR, the cars changed after 9/11. They got rid of like the best car of the Grand Prix and stuff. And you just see how when there's an event, and not long after that, you just see how they come in and they just kind of make everything worse. Like if you looked at sports back then, if I watched a game, a football game, or wrestling match or NASCAR back in 2002, like I could get into it. But I look at it now and it's like, how the hell did we go from that to this? It's like and people can't see how scripted it is. It's so scripted and so fake and so pathetic now. It's just like Mahomes with Taylor Swift. You can't bet against Taylor Swift, so the Chiefs are going to win. It's just you can't stop them because Taylor Swift. And she's a billionaire. I mean, come on, a billionaire? You're a billionaire? For what do you do exactly? I mean, you're about as mediocre as my elbow. I mean, geez, if you're a billionaire, I mean, I must be trillionaire. I mean, Christ. I mean, but that's, like I said, that's what they've made people look into. Look into look up to mediocrity. You could add Nirvana. You could add real quality music. You could look up to a guy like Kurt Cobain. Nothing like Taylor Swift, but no, we got to get rid of him. He doesn't fit the agenda. He can't be around. We got to get Bill Gates and Trump and these billionaires, people that are all about money, all about status, all about self-worship and just garbage. These are the people we're going to promote in the world. And that's why you have the society you have today. And it's unfortunate because you look at the decline of society. If you looked at way kids dressed when I was in elementary school, and you look at it the way people dress now, you would have thought that was like 100 years ago. And I'm like, no, that's just 20 years ago. That was just like 25 years ago. You would have thought that was 100+ years ago. So the agenda is moving pretty fast. People think, I mean, it is slow in some ways, but it has come a long way. But people, if they understood the overall agenda to depopulate, to have total control, because that's really what it comes down to. Digital currency, whatever they want, whatever they're going to do to us. But this is how they're getting it, through every one of these rituals. And who knows what the next one's going to be. I mean, there's probably going to be something here in October, because the way it is now, I mean, Trump just can't stop from getting shot at. They just can't leave Trump alone. He's just we got to take him out. So I'm sure we're going to get another one of these stories here in October, and it's just going to be, or who knows what they're going to do. But I think something big is coming in October.
All these people who are willing to shoot somebody, apparently, but there's no like off the rails person on the right side of things that's willing to at least go and trip Joe Biden and kill him.
Yeah.
All you got to do is trip him, dude. Shoot a spit wad at him, and he might be done.
Yeah,
That's a
I mean,
stealth mission.
it's just, and the fact that we still have people voting. I mean, it's just, if people understood the Jesuits and knew who the Jesuits were, and looked at, and Adam Weishaupt knew the Illuminati was legit, May 1st, 1776, and they learned about the Jesuits, and they learned about, the English language, the alphabet, the calendar system. That's, like I said, why would they teach you the alphabet in school to read and write? This the way they set you up. And it's I don't even know what school is like anymore, compared to when I was there, because I know it's nothing the same. But now I know like 90% of the kids can't even read. Like, there's like, that's what I hear, like 90% of the kids, like, they can't even read and write. So it's just like, what kind of future
Yeah,
are we
they're
going to
all.
have? You just see how they're shutting us down. Like I said, I mean, you would have never guessed the way people dressed, 20, 25 years ago to where what people wear now. You would just think hundreds of years would have passed. You just, it doesn't even look the same. People don't even look the same. They don't, you wouldn't even think these are the same people. I mean, people don't even, they were just, it's crazy. It's just crazy the way they've changed
They've,
things in such a short amount of time.
they've warped the human mind because for men and women both. But to have this society the way it is now, you talked about how people are dressing. I'll focus on the females to start. Why they have grown to prefer this more, of course you have art, popular artists and the Katy Perry's and the Britney Spears and all that stuff. I get why, and I understand why, but there's still the individual behind all those things, and I understand that also getting to them as kids, which is the part I aim to especially thwart, is at least in my small circle, and hoping to expand that circle onto the next parents or would be hopeful parents, or at least people that see something wrong with the world and want to change it for the better. But the way that girls nowadays are okay with dressing provocatively, as opposed to a more modest style. It's not to say that modest dressing for women isn't. That used to be like the hot thing. Is like certain modest clothing. Why can't it still be that? Why would they prefer to have their bodies out? And these are kind of rhetorical questions. I understand the agenda, hits everybody, and up until a few, really just a few years ago, I was just another cog in the wheel. So it's not like I don't understand it to an extent. It's just, my point being is the warping of the mind. These kids nowadays, their minds are warped, and it's you mentioned the alphabet. The alphabet they're teaching in school nowadays starts with L and ends with plus. So they're not even getting what they claim. I remember years back getting STEM. You had homeschooling parents fighting like at I think a pretty high level. I don't know if it was only state level, but I think it got pretty far about control of the have maintaining control of their children's curriculum and not being forced to basically get a diploma through doing the certain curriculum through the state in order to get their education. And it had to do with their regulations on STEM class, reading, math, arithmetic, and all that stuff. Or I said arithmetic again, but anyway. But that was like parents fighting to like have control over their kids' education. Nowadays, it's just send them off to the babysitter with and they're not even. I see it. I see it. I not only was doing my kids' homeschool for a couple of years, but before that, he was in a middle school and an elementary school, and now he's in high school, and the curriculum is trash. Not to mention, you look at one of the biggest contributors to high schools across the country, across the entire country. I looked this up. Is CNN. That's one of their major news sources that they write up their curriculum based on CNN. It's called CNN 10. It's like the kids version. There's kids CNN. Of course, we want that, right? I'm sure all the parents know about that and love that. I don't remember getting the newsletter that, hey, CNN is going to be your main source of curriculum. Not to say I want Fox, but it's just like, education is down the shitter. It becomes more of a societal norms game rather than learning anything. That's for sure. Um, so you look at these kids; they're dressing more provocatively, and I walk my kid to the bus stop even in high school because my neighborhood's not the greatest. And some of the kids that go to his high school, I'm just like, holy crap! It's like, damn, I don't even want to be here. I don't. It's like I want to be here, but it's like, damn, there's put some clothes on, kids. What the hell is your problem? What is going? Whose parents? And I'm the only parent that I've ever seen at his bus stop. And granted, it's high school, and I didn't have my mom walk me to the bus in high school. I was taking the city bus and all that stuff, by myself. But times have changed, and it's like you see what they're doing now on every level. The kids are being made to be more independent earlier, and the parents are also like, what's the same thing only for parents? It's like they're accepting their kids' independence earlier, yet that dynamic has not matured to a normal age like 18 or so. I'm not to say that 18 is the perfect number for a kid to mature, but I'm just saying these kids aren't coming up having what they're coming up with a watcher, not a parent. Like these parents nowadays are just watching their kids. They're not raising them. The schools are raising them, and they're doing it very poorly. And you look at what's happening in society. I also, at my job, I look at the new hires we've gone through. When we get it's like, I'm sure, just the lowest rung of people right out of high school. I'm sure they're not, I'm not signing them up to be the best and brightest, but at the same time, I can compare myself and my kind of graduating class and how we were when I was going out into the job force, and compare that to now, where everybody's been, has had a cell phone in their hand since they are 6 years old now. Oh, it's toast. It's cooked. It's bad. These kids don't speak like themselves. They don't act like themselves. They act like the agenda. And when you know the agenda, you see that these kids are perfectly representing it. And it really is. It's truly sad. And it has to start with, unfortunately, I almost think that these kids are going to grow to be of age and have an epiphany and come to faster than we could ever get through to the parents. Because the parents, in my opinion, for them to ever even be okay with signing their kids up and like letting them be indoctrinated and to having sort of a blind eye to it this whole time, I wouldn't even want that person on my side, let alone having to try to convince them that they were wrong in some way. Good luck. So I almost think it's almost more worth it to get, the kids themselves, as they're growing up, somehow. Don't clip that. That's what they want. But I mean, like, to get to the kids before the indoctrination really truly sets in, because it really does something to them, and it's very real, and it's sad.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for the younger generation. Like, I mean, I'm kind of getting old. I mean, I'm going to be in my 30th year of life. So I guess I am in my 30th year of life. I'm going to be 30 years old in April. I was born April 29th, 1995, 10 days after Oklahoma City. So like, and the internet came out in August of 95, AOL Online 95, America Online 95. So it's like, I was born just before the internet. And, I was lucky enough that I got to come in the world to a point where I can still remember the 90s, the early 2000s, the way of life, before the cell phone and before all the technology and before people had the internet, and just what that was, um, the way people were, to what we have today, to where we are now. And I mean, it's just been, I've seen it my whole life, and I seen this coming, and I would, talk about this stuff and say this stuff from a very, young age. And, I just look at it now, and I can't help but feel bad, because I see the younger generation, how bad they're doing. Like, people younger than me, even where I'm at, and people like about like 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're old, they've made it, they lived through the better days. But like my generation and anybody younger than me, like if you're not even my age, like you're younger, like I just feel so bad for you, because just how bad like the younger generation has it, like how bad where we are is just ridiculous. I mean, like I was saying, like 90% of the kids can't read. The obesity, how many fat kids there are. I mean, like if I ran the school, I just shut the shit down, because there wouldn't be any, obesity, fat kids. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just unbelievable that it's gotten this bad. And what I really feel bad about is like, these kids, they don't even know and remember what I know and remember. Like that's why they're so screwed. All they know is the internet and all this stuff and the way things are. They don't know the way things used to be. They don't know how the world used to be. So they're born into the technology and the corruption, where I was kind of coming in the world as it was starting, or right before it started, or as it was starting, or before it got too bad. But now they're just like, they can't do anything. Like I couldn't imagine what it's like to be, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22 today. If I was that age, I probably wouldn't even made it. And I always say that, like if I was any younger, I just, and the thing is, and you see, the way they have everything going, because when I'm out and I'm, driving around, Ubering around, do what I'm doing, I see the agenda in full display. Like where I'm at, it's crazy, because all you'll see outside is like women. There's only girls outside. There's only women, girls walking, girls, walking their dog, doing whatever out and about. Like you don't see like any like guys or men like ever outside. It's crazy here. It's like, and for a city this size, I mean, it's kind of a ghost town. Seattle, there's a pretty good amount of people outside still, and Pike's Place stuff. But like here, Tacoma, it's kind of somewhat people outside. It's still kind of nice, but for the most part, Tacoma's there's just nobody outside anymore. There's no one outside. And like I said, the only people you do see outside mainly are women. Like I said, women walking around doing whatever. And and women today are, the agenda, with the women and everything. The women are doing better than ever. So there's never been a better time to be a woman, but at the same time, there's never been a worse time to ever be a man. And what you see with the agenda, most of these younger kids, the women, the girls, they're all doing pretty well. Like most women that I see are doing pretty well for themselves. Not all, of course. There's some that aren't, that's to be expected. But 90% of women are doing pretty good. Where I'd say like probably 10% of men are doing, or not even 10%. It's like it's crazy. It's like, and I just see like, and I know, and there are women that work hard. There's a lot of women that do work hard, but there's a lot of women that they don't work that hard. They don't do that much, but they have it so easy. And then you have all these guys coming up, and I see a lot of guys, they do work really hard. They are working pretty hard, most men, but they can't get anywhere. They're still struggling. They can't really break out of where they are. They can't really move forward, and it's not really their fault. It's just that's just the way it's designed. It's designed now for women to succeed and women to make more money, and women to just have the best quality of life, and it's designed to shut down men. And then you have, of course, you have, why they call, oh, why do we need men anymore? Well, it's obvious you're just, phasing us out and, weakening us and getting us out of the way. It just all goes, with the depopulation and their agenda, what they want, and how they've done it. Like I said, you go back, 20, 30 years ago, it was nothing like this, and in the way it was very still pretty equal on both sides, like compared to what it is today, where, like I said, there's almost no men that are really happy or doing well. And like I said, it's just there's so many that are struggling, or just they're not doing that well, or just at the bottom, compared to like maybe 1% or whoever's at the top. And then, like I said, with women, it's they have it pretty easy, so most of them, majority of them, are doing really well. It just throws everything off, and it creates this massive imbalance in society, which is what we have now. And and it's I've brought up too, it's like, is that what they're doing here, even with the fake selection, with Kamala, like in 2016, 2017, it was Trump against Hillary, and Trump beat a woman. So is Trump going to go 2-0 against women? Is he going to beat women and sweep the women and do it again? Or 2016, 2017, Now it's 24, 25. Now is it time for the woman? So that's something I'm also looking at, what they might have planned and what they might be doing here.
I do think it's you mentioned obviously the rig selection coming up, and I think it's optically it's so confusing to me. Like, how is it even possible that Kamala Harris's vice president would just be an old white guy? How is it even possible? That where in her, like, I get that she like rode Biden's coattails, sort of, and you know, optically, but how? Why would that help? Is it to like appease in their, and as far as the show they're putting on, is it like to say like the undecideds or the Republicans that think Donald Trump is a little bit too much or something like that? I don't really understand what they're trying to get across with this. It just makes no sense. He looks crooked as it can be. He just looks like an evil little dude, like Dick Cheney and like, I don't know who else, but McCain combined. It's just like, what is going on here? Why? And like, think about like they're, she's cementing the black vote supposedly. Like, that's what they say. How would they feel? Like, is this in my head? It's almost like poking people. It's like, oh, you're gonna vote for the black president, right? Well, I'm bringing along this, this white guy, and here at the same time, how much credence have we been giving to Kamala Harris, at least in the news? Like, look at where Joe Biden's at. You think Joe Biden's been doing, they're like, Kamala's like a big deal and she's only the vice president. So won't this Walz guy be a big deal, even though he's only the vice president? Why would you have a white guy be that position? Why would you have just like some random white guy who's like old and a politician? If you're really looking to like to change things up, and just like they offer change, but change is never really on the table, is it? It's just the same old BS.
Yeah, and sacrifice 46, Biden 46. I don't know. Are we going to get a fake Biden death here in October? Shocktober? Is that going to be the Shocktober surprise? Maybe. That's and I'm looking too, like even with these fake, stupid, retarded shootings. It's like, what is this to just set up Kamala more? Is that kind of seems to be what it is? I mean, it seemed like, back, 2016, 2017, with the Trump and the Hillary thing, it seemed a lot. This time it seems a lot different, but obviously we're a lot deeper in the game now, and COVID was, in the middle of all this. So, we are at a different stage right now. Of course, it's the same, the clown act and Jesuits, Obama, Osama, Bush, Bush mocking you on 9/11, and it doesn't matter who it is, and whatever they decide to do. I mean, it's interesting because there's 2.5 months from the election on the 5th of November, with leaving 56 days left to go in the year.
Back to the Jesuits too.
Yeah, 2.5 months
day
till
for them.
Yeah, 2.5 months till January 20th. Till so who knows? See, they leave that and they said last time it was going to be, or the last election was equivalent to the '93 World Trade Center bombing. This one's going to be equivalent to, or worse, to 9/11, and so and just the way they're mocking you with these fake shootings and how stupid they are. It's like, yeah, I really do wonder what they have planned here in the near future, because I mean, I don't know, if they're going to go, whenever they want to, drop the grid, or, do their cyber attack, drop the grid, whatever they're going to do. But
they will do it because
yeah,
Cyber Polygon took place. They don't mess around with those simulations. Those
exactly.
things are done
I'm
for a
thinking,
reason.
and I'm thinking, this winter, it's been a pretty mild winter out here the last couple of years. I think this year we're going to get hit pretty hard. And I always say, if they're going to take down the grid and they're going to just do it, they're going to do it in the winter time, because it's the hardest to get by, and you can kill so many people. You make it, cold, 40, 50 below everywhere. You're going to kill a lot of people. You can take a lot of people out,
I mean, even just the logistics of like just homeless people, like think about how the that number's never going down. That number's not, that's been on an upwards increase for, year after year after year. Well, you get a large enough population homeless and you hit them with a big storm. I mean, sad enough to say, these homeless aren't the kind that, necessarily want to be in shelters. And, if you hit them with a quick enough storm, that's gonna be a large population gone in an instant. I even wonder if makes me, yeah, it's. I mean, that could be a whole nother show, and it really, honestly, should be, because it'd be interesting to compare like where you live with where I live in Portland, and see, just like, I mean, you just recently visited Portland, and so you got to see a small subsection of it, and that's even like in our downtown area. But it's a problem. It's a big problem, and they like to throw the fentanyl around, and they like to throw all their different reasons for exactly what's going on. But economically, it's like I'm a 2 degrees of separation from a homeless person. Not really, but I mean, it could be. It's stuff is way too expensive, and we're all way too happy to pay it. And until something changes, what would you do if you're sitting there collecting, and everybody's just kissing your hand as you collect? Would you lower the cost? Just naturally, these people aren't the kind of people that are going to take pity, and it's only ever going to get worse. For the homeless, there's got to be some level of them wanting to help themselves, and get out of what they're doing. Or, in my opinion, it's not. I don't live for society, to be honest. If it was a little bit better of a society, I think I could try to get behind that. I do hope to, change some people's minds on how they need to live and what they should be paying attention to and how they should be doing things. But society as a whole, I don't necessarily live for them. So not to be a doomer or anything like that, but I almost feel like if you're doing nothing but being a strain on society, I really don't know what to do for that kind of person who only wants to be. There's a level of want. It takes a lot of effort. From what I've seen, it takes a lot of effort to be homeless. It's like there is also effortlessness, whereas you're not having responsibility, but that's what they crave, is no responsibility, because you can't do drugs and all that stuff and have like responsibilities. That doesn't those things don't jive. So, but it's hard work being homeless. It's like it's definitely not pretty, but they're willing to do it for what they're willing to do it for, generally drugs and other things. And I don't really have the mental capacity to be okay with that when I see life is more of, you should be wanting to, if anything, leave a positive, footprint for your next generation and stuff like that. And so I don't see a place for this in society. So I don't know how to fix it necessarily, but when it leaves a large sect of society ultra vulnerable, and who's going to question? Like, what my general point was, is like each winter, how I'm sure a large number of homeless people are dying. I'm sure that there has to be people's jobs who are finding these bodies out on the street and cleaning them up. It's not like they're just lining the street. They can't have that in society. So there's people who I'm sure, their job is to go around every winter and find these people and dispose of them. Well, you get a large enough swath all at once, that's going to knock out a large section of society that no one's even going to question. Not to mention the people that, let's just call them normal everyday people, that people are, do, potentially notice if they were going through a struggle, or, they have a house and all that stuff. So, and other family members. So this whole compounding drug issue and the growing popularity, I'll say, of homelessness, because I see younger and younger people are becoming homeless. And I say becoming homeless because I just don't think there's not government programs to keep you from being homeless. There are. So the fact that they're not reaching towards these, it shows a willingness to forego the normal way of doing things, which in my opinion is a good thing, but not when it's for drugs. If we were en masse to do, it's like a fine line. It's like 50-50. If we were half willing to do what the homeless people are doing and the homeless people were half willing to do what we're doing, and we just melded into that, that'd be perfect to combat what's going on right now. But because it's just the polarity, the two extremes, you're never, the middle is never going to be achieved in this system. And what we're going to get hit with is a gut punch. Just so they've hinted at it, and maybe it won't be America even, but maybe it'll be another, superpower to kind of highlight, hey, look, this can happen. This will happen. Large populations. I mean, they're sort of already doing it with the wars, right? The contrived wars and Palestine and all that stuff, and Israel and Ukraine and Russia and
Yeah, and they're taking people out, a lot of different ways. And it's like when I was, down in Portland too. I kept saying when we were down there and we were pounding pavement, I just couldn't believe how there was just like nobody outside. I'm just like, where is everybody? It was just, I thought it was just crazy. I mean, and with the homeless, I know, certain places it's not, like you live, in places I've lived, Wisconsin, I live in Washington now, where, it gets down to teens, 20s. I mean, it's pretty brutal outside if you got to stay outside. I mean, that's not, it's not 70 degrees what you want. So, I've lived in, Wisconsin, Wyoming, it gets 40, 50 below. So you can't live outside because you're going to die in like 2 minutes. So, anyone that gets caught up in situations like that, and, places that get bad winters where it's cold, they're going to take out a large amount of people because you can't be homeless in certain places. And then it's strategic too, because you look at places where maybe you could be homeless, down there by the border of Mexico and Texas. Well, then, yeah, we're just going to keep hitting that area with hurricanes. So if you're homeless, we're just going to keep sweeping you away. So with every SWAT that comes in, that just takes out more people. You look at Hurricane Beryl that shot through there. It wasn't even hurricane season. How many homeless people got caught up in that? How many people did that take out? We don't even know about that. So you can just see what they're doing to, chip away at our numbers. And, it's such a multifaceted agenda because like you said, you do have the war, you do have, the vaccines, the Operation Warp Speed, just like Trump, the father of the vaccine, declares Operation Warp Speed. And, look how many people took that and how many people are no longer with us. They're dead, gone, out of here. So, and there's other, there's cancers, turbo cancer now. There's, so many things, people dying, car accidents, people dying, fentanyl, dying from just obesity, dying from
obesity is a big one. No fun.
Yeah, just dying from, they're just killing so many people off. And like I said, with they have the younger people coming up, people aren't gonna be, I mean, there's already not people outside. There's not enough people outside. There's not enough people around like there used to be. But there's going to be way less. And there's going to be less people coming into the world because most people won't be able to afford kids. Most people won't even want kids. If they could afford them, there won't be many men around because all the men are killing themselves. It's 90%, men are suicides and like 10% women. And who knows how many suicides from how many things, but 65-70% are gun deaths, self-checkout. So then you got all the other suicides and other ways people kill themselves, and some people, they'll just choose to be homeless or whatever. So I look at myself and I reflect on myself. It's like, yeah, I ain't doing great, but I ain't doing that bad. I'm not down there, like, I mean, if I gotta sell my car or, live in my car, whatever I got to do to get by, then that's what I got to do. So it's like, whether I can just afford a rent or a car, if it comes to that, I don't know how they plan on phasing out the dollar since it's, only worth 3 cents, it's been completely devalued. So, I know they want to get that digital currency push, and then boom, that's going to wipe out the homeless because you can't help them out no more. And I know a lot of people, other people that, they rely on cash, they work, they have other methods and stuff. So that, I don't know how that would work, but yeah, I mean, everything they're doing is depopulation. And see, we're at a critical time. We're at a critical mass because people have to see, where this is going. Because, like I said, they do a cyber attack. They drop the grid. I mean, there's been cyber attacks every day. We had a cyber attack at the SeaTac airport here in the last month. So, and there's been plenty others. So, one of these days they're going to pull that, and they've already said they're going to do it. So it's like, humanity just has to be ready. And it's like I said, it's really sad, from like people, like I said, my age and down. Then you have the people that are like 40, 50, 60, 70, they're made it, they're pretty good. But yeah, I mean, there's just huge problems with, my generation and younger right now. And I just feel like, and think about what it is to be a kid now and have to go to school during these times. Like I said, how many kids were forced to get the vaccine? They died. They're out of here. How many kids are, you know, they're obese because, well, the school system don't take care of them, and now it's the parents don't. They're obese. They don't take care of nobody. So now the kids at the school. Well, now the school is, 24 hours a day basically. You stay longer. You come in earlier, you leave later, you're there more. It's like year round school. You don't even have time off. So it's like, these kids are getting dumber. They're getting fatter. They're getting, they're not doing well for themselves. You have the majority of people are struggling. And you just see, I mean, it's not society in the world is not sustainable, and it is on the verge of collapse, and it most likely is going to collapse. But people have to, most people, like I said, they don't have survival skills. These younger generations that, they don't have anything, they don't have, family, they don't have nothing really. And that's all done, by design, to destroy, what the world used to be like. You didn't have all these homeless people because people took care of each other. People were good to each other. Now nobody has principles, don't have morals, and nobody cares about anybody. So you see how they have designed, our demise and how they've put it together. And it just comes down to the people that are left, people like me and you and others that get it and see it. We have to somehow be the driving change and motivate, inspire others. And like I said, I'd love to, be in the school and teach the school, because there wouldn't be any, like I said, fat, obese people. There wouldn't be people that didn't know how to read and write, and they're like already like 10 years old and they don't have nothing. It's like all this could easily be changed, and it's amazing that it's gotten this point, because like I said, when I was in school, there wasn't gay, transgender stuff at all, and that was just a decade ago. Now I'm 30, and it's like now it's all it's been since the time I've been out of school. It's like who's dropping the ball here? Who's like allowing this to happen? That's what's like blowing me away. It's just, so I think, parents, most parents, they either just shouldn't be parents, or they don't know how to be parents. Or you have how many, people that have kids, they have no father. There's no father figure. They don't have, there's no husband, there's no boyfriend, or there's just different guys there, or women, or kids they have no essence of how to be brought up. And it's so hard to make it right now with the way things are. Of course, the inflation, Trump printing all the money back in 2020, making it, it wasn't like as bad as like 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 were. Things are way worse now because we had to go through all of that. So now, like I said, you had all the people that died. How many people, looked at Trump and just thought he was God and Savior and took that vaccine, and then boop, they're out of here. We really killed over 1 million people in, Afghanistan, 9/11, over there in the Middle East. Well, we lost way more than 1 million people from that COVID jab. So the agenda's gotten a lot worse. It's gotten a lot severe. And then you have to worry, what are they going to do in 2025? Is it going to be disease X, a real pandemic? Are they really going to, stir
Zika virus?
Yeah, Zika virus.
Bird flu's coming back. It's like, come on now. Bird flu is like, that's antiquity at this point. If they bring that back, I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I'm just gonna wear one of those like old school what are those doctors? They had like the big beak from like the plague times, the plague doctors. That's what they are.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna walk around in one of those and
Yeah, 2020 was just amazing how they did all that with COVID, and like I said, how they had all that ready to go. I mean, it's 2020 and people don't know about the 19-year cycle. They don't know it's COVID-19 and it's breaking out in Seattle, and it's, they don't know about Event 201. They don't know about Klaus Schwab. They don't know who these people are, that they're all, the world is a stage. They're all just Jesuit clowns and actors and puppets, and they're telling you. I mean, people don't know about these simulations every time, and it's really amazing because if people can go back and look at, go back and listen to Bill Gates' TED Talk, he'll tell you in 2010, what he wanted and what he was going to do, and he came out and he did it, and that's amazing within itself. But you see the damage that it's caused, and here we are almost 15 years later, and I mean, look at the guy now. I mean, he's behind everything. Most people probably don't know about, in 2017, the Trump economist cover, Trump on top of the world, with the American flag wrapped up like a toilet, just shitting on America, just shitting on the world, with him on top. And that's what it's been since he stepped in. I mean, and people don't, they don't remember, 2017, all the things we lost, freedom of speech and online censorship and all the other rights. And, 2017 Operation Solar Shield by Harvard. Bill Gates was behind that as well. Blocking out the sun. People don't even know about that. And that was, in weather control and everything has come a long way since then. And it's the same people, and Bill Gates now in Wyoming, doing stuff out there, and the guy's in everything. I mean, Trump's in everything. I mean, these people are everywhere. They're mocking you, laughing at you, in every corner of the room. I mean, there's nowhere of where these people are not poking fun of you, planning your demise, just screwing with you. I mean, this is what people have to really catch on to, and it just seems like there's not, we just have to find enough people. Like I said, you get 10% of the population, 10% to revolt, get a revolution going, because it's revolution or bust, because these people they're just going to do their next, whatever they're going to do. And we don't know how much time we have. We don't know what they're going to pull, how they're going to, ruin our lives more. And look what they did in 2020. I mean, how can that not piss people off? I mean, you couldn't get away from the face diaper. Everywhere I went, I was in Wyoming, I was in every state, I was in Montana, Idaho, Washington, Wyoming. I was in Warland, Wyoming, in the middle of nowhere, and they have the whole town locked down. 5,000 people, and the whole town is locked down. The only place it's open is a little Mexican restaurant to eat. Everything else is just toast. So it's like, it's unbelievable now. They have the 6 feet apart, social distance, stand here, stand there, wear a mask, all of this perfectly set to go everywhere you went. You couldn't escape it. And then, they had the fires that just were out of control. I was in Wyoming, in the sky. It was the worst fires I've ever seen. I've ever been in. The sky was orange, red, fire coming down, smoke, ash. You couldn't even breathe outside. You go outside at daytime, you had your headlights on. It was orange, red. It was dark. It was smoky. You couldn't even breathe. It was just burning your lungs. It's just what they put people through. They did this everywhere. And then the BLM, the riots, there was BLM cars in Wyoming. There was BLM riots going on everywhere, from Wyoming, Colorado, Seattle had the autonomous zone. There was, you get messages, stay in your house, stay in shelter, tonight there's the unrest going on, and there's, the autonomous zone, and there's all this stuff going on. So every night you get like curfews, alarms, your phone would ring, stay out of downtown, and, just stay inside. And it was like this every day. And, people did, but people don't realize, I mean, look at how they had the bricks all lined up to go. I mean, big piles of bricks just perfectly lined up to go, ready, all set up. I mean, they don't see it's all part of the stage act. And, how, with the way they went around about, the BLM and the riots, now it's okay to, be by each other and not wear a mask now. But when you're done with the BLM, you got to put that mask back on. But you just can't have it when you're out there. When you're out there and you're killing people, that's all fine. But when you're done with that, you got to put that mask back on and back
get
to
those germs back in your mouth. Otherwise, if you're out here yelling BLM, you can, spit everywhere all you want. But if you want to order some food, you're a terrorist.
Yep.
I mean, I thought it was rather entertaining, seeing the lengths of people were going to. It's sad, of course, but I never really had a positive outlook. It's kind of like in hindsight, I found it entertaining, like my memories of it. But like even going to places like Walmart and being like judged, because I didn't wear a mask in like the convenience store. I worked at the time. I worked at a restaurant, so I did wear my mask. Didn't like it. And what I liked even less was that, some of my good friends that I had worked with that, outside of work, we were incredibly good friends, been friends for years. I saw them change from like someone who would never care about anything to do with this, but just be morphed into a weapon for it. Like one of my real close friends, he was, you know, pissed off when somebody walked in without a mask. I'm like, bro, I don't want to be in a mask. Are you going to be mad? Would you hate me if I took my mask off, bro? I don't want this crap on. Why do you care? And this is, I'm not even sure if I was like on the Zach wagon yet. I don't think so. I don't think I was on the Gematria Effect news bandwagon. No, I wasn't. But simply going to Walmart and like getting judged by, you know, Jabba the Hutts being, barely fitting in their scooters, pushing, with their wheels dragging through the aisles, looking at me like I'm crazy with their masks, just like looking like Spider-Man holding back the train, barely being able to hold on their fat heads, looking at me like I'm crazy because I don't have a mask on. Like, it's just like, that was always wild to me. It's like, man, I go to Walmart to judge you guys. Don't do that. not really, but and not once did I get like told to go put a mask on or anything like that, which is also in hindsight, it's just like, where were the other people? Why didn't, like 4 or 5 of us walk in within, 5 minutes to kind of like hold up that side? As much as these drones are holding up the idea that we need to be wearing them, we're all, would assume it would only take like, you know, 20 people an hour, or maybe not at Walmart, but depending on the store, a small enough ratio would probably change the policy of the store, because they want money and that's the bottom line. So I think, the fact that not enough people were willing to go in there without a mask, that's going to uphold their enforcement of the mask policy. Whereas, obviously enough people cause a fuss, they'd probably, drop it. But even if they wouldn't stand up and be a human being, be a man, like the amount of losers that I saw made and right before my eyes, people I considered friends, people that I considered, at least indifferent to political manipulation. You see how this shit works. And a lot of it's, TikTok. That's a huge one. I watched my like adult, my age friend become inundated by TikTok at his age. I'm like, how is this getting to you? Like, how are you getting wrapped up in TikTok, bro? We're over 30. What is going on? This is, he would come out on our breaks and try to just like show me TikTok videos. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, why would I want to watch this? This is all like garbage. And you see how they morph people, in real time. And it is a little bit scary and unnerving, but there's never been an incentive to just go along with it. And the people that do go along with it, I think it's under the guise of an incentive when they're not seeing the hand behind the back stealing their wallet. They're not seeing, Dave or, the street magician taking their watch right in front of them. They're handing them the dollar bill, not noticing their watch is getting taken off at the same time. They're not seeing the back end of this stuff. And they're saying, oh, look, government's here. They're helping out with these stimulus checks. They're keeping us afloat. Hell, I don't even got to go to work anymore. And you have all these lazy, high schoolers just out of high school, people just out of high school who are being, manipulated and trained to be moralists, no work ethic, no, self responsibility, nothing like that. You think they're going to like not having to go to work? Yep. Turns out they loved it. Turns out staying home was exactly what they wanted to do. And so now you have you have a whole swath of people, a whole section of our society that was completely, you're never going to convince them that to not to go against this. Yeah, of course they're going to wear the mask. Oh, what? I got to go get a free shot? Sure, I'm there. Oh, it's for a good cause. Look, we don't want to make anybody else sick. Think about all the people who only wore a mask, not because anybody around them is coughing, but just because they don't want to get sick and they don't want to get other people sick. Shouldn't someone be sick first? I never even saw sick people. And it's just the pure hilarity of like anybody who coughed. It's just like, guys, wake the fuck up. We've been coughing our whole lives. This is there's no way.
The flu kills more people a year than COVID. And what's so crazy, it's like what blows my mind is when this was going on, I was doing Uber Eats, and they would send me to the hospital to deliver food while this was going on. Now, if you heard what was going on, the hospitals were being overrun. There was bodies. It was just they couldn't keep up. It was just calamity. And here I am going in the hospital. It's completely empty. I was going literally. I don't know why Uber was sending me to a hospital every day. I thought it was crazy, and I'd be delivering to different hospitals every day. I'd be going places, and every one of them's empty. There's nothing going on. There's nobody in there, and it's just the way they can portray it through the radio, through the TV. Oh my God, it's just this tragedy. It's like when Trump was talking about it. Oh, this terrible monster. Like he talks like you were talking to like 2-year-olds. Like, oh, the big scary monster. Ooh, just 99.9% survivable, and they got everyone for the most part to go along with it. And they did so much damage in so much time. It divided people. It made everything worse. And then you had all the people, that, whatever happened from the lockdowns, because they had to interrupt everybody's life. So, people, can't go to the gym no more, can't work out because Klaus Schwab gets to have a scamdemic, so now you had so many people that they didn't work out anymore, and and they had people that they didn't work anymore, and then they had people you can't go out and date anymore, and you can't see people's faces, so you can't do that, and then you can't be out past this time because there's curfews, there's lockdowns, or the fires are so bad, it was such a multifaceted agenda. It was amazing to see it, from the west to the west coast, and how they just tore this place apart. And you look at like you were saying, what they've done, like with the younger people with the COVID stuff, because now these younger kids, this is all imprinted in their mind. They're going to be learning about. They're going to be learning about this in the history book. I remember when I was getting out of school, I still had to, the last thing in the book was like 9/11, I think, because that was still the kind of the newer thing at the time. But now it's now they're going to hear about, now they're all trying, yeah, there was COVID, it was unbelievable, there was people just dying left and right, they couldn't keep up, the hospitals were overfilled, and there was just bodies
piling up, couldn't even store them.
Yeah, I couldn't even store them. And then there was all these people that, they got the vaccine, and it just saved their lives. And then they're going to think that the vaccine saved their lives because all the people that died, but all the people that died really from the vaccine. So you just see how they just scammed, a lot of these young kids. And now they're going to grow up, and this is going to be in their history book. Oh, COVID-19, and Trump was the guy. He gave them that Operation Warp Speed and gave them that vaccine. He's the father of the jab. Him and Bill Gates, they're just the greatest people ever. And then, they're going to hear about these fake shootings, and that's going to be in the history book, like the tell-a vision, the tell-lie vision, the tell-a-lie vision, tell-a-lie vision, whether they're getting it from the TV or whatever, because, most people, they're still watching the TV too. So, if the kids are even homeschooled, bam, that's another way it can still get you. So, yeah, it's amazing what they've done with, the youth, because now, and the kids, they're going to be just terrified of everything. like I said, it's going to be the bubble world for these people. I mean, I still remember, I was born 10 days after the biggest terrorist attack in American history, and then 9/11. But, we didn't, 9/11 happened. Kurt Cobain died. Oklahoma City died. We didn't have lockdowns. The world just went on. But COVID, oh, no, got to lock it down, got to shut it down. I was 25 at the time. We were turning 25. So, I was kind of in the, my prime. But it's like, yeah, for all the younger people, what that did to their life and how that affected their life and made their life worse. Even for the people that, were like 29, 30, like my age now, back then, they might have just been on the cusp of making it. Now it shuts them down, screws their life up. So, yeah, I mean, they did a lot of damage to a lot of people. And it's amazing more people aren't, mad about it because, you still have them talking about COVID-19. They're still pushing the vaccine. They're still pushing this. They're still talking about it. And
Oh,
they
it's
just,
so normal now. It's like anything else. You better go get your. I understand that there was still rather novelty during while it was happening, but now it's just part of the cycle. It's getting to be winter. It's just like a flu shot. It's almost like they're saying it's just like the flu. Oh, interesting. But no, they want you to get your flu shot and your booster, and whatever else, and whatever else, and it's ridiculous how they it's just like everybody knows they create the problem, they provide the solution, and now we're living in the world with their solutions, and their solutions don't work for the person awake in this world. And what's really sad with you bringing up the kids and everything is just like I can imagine like a questioning mind coming up in that time, and I don't think I'd be strong enough at a young enough age to combat all of my friends turning against me, all of their parents turning against me if I didn't, necessarily want to go along with the things. Parents were insane. Parents were insane. They still are. It's like all the places I see, like families parked outside of like places that still like put a mask, little free mask thing outside before you walk in. You can grab a mask to this day, 100%. I still see them like take their families and like before they can walk in the store, I'm just passing them. People are just walking right by them. Luckily, some people are walking right by these mask machines, but you see whole families stopping to mask up. It's like you drove here, you got out of your car. Why are you even coming here with everybody? What are you scared of? What's going on? Why, when you see a mask, are you like, oh, we should be wearing this? And that's the trick. That's like these people are subconsciously holding up this system now, and these poor kids. It's like you mentioned, like the big bad boogeyman. What would a 4 or 5-year-old think of when they looked out at the world, going to the store or whatever else? That must have looked like a nightmare. Everybody wearing hoods and masks, and just like all the only time you'd seen like people in masks or hoods or anything were like bad people, and now they're just everywhere walking around. It's like those
right.
kids are going to be completely, inundated with it, and they're going to, that's going to be hook, line, and sinker through fear. And this comes down to psychology. They get to you through, fear, love, even, especially when it comes to like addiction. That is a form of what's the hormone that gets your brain like addicted to things. Anyway, blanking on that, but that's a form of like love as an emotion, and fear. Those are powerful tools, and you see that they're put in full effect. The fear, they have different ways of doing things, but you can see that fear was the main tool in their psychological reforming of society.
Right. And you just look at the guy they had to do it. I mean, the highest degree of the Satanic Church, Mega. I mean, Mega, the highest degree of Satanic Church, scams everybody into it. He could have went against it. He could have said, no, it's 99.9% survival. I think I'm going to, keep everything open. No, he goes for it, screws all over. I mean, like I said, look at Minneapolis, Minnesota. I know other places had the same issue, but, our own military was shooting shooting at our own people, to get in your doorway with, rubber bullets and beanbags to, don't come out your house, stay in there. I mean, that should have started the revolution right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our own military is shooting at us. I mean, come on. I mean, they just it is crazy to think that it was already, you know, almost, you know, 5 years ago now, and they've the amount of damage they did with this, you know, the youth, you know, because if you were born in 2020, well, now you know, you're 4 or 5 years old, so it's like, you know, now what's your life story? Oh yeah, the scamdemic. You know, that's your life story. That's all you know is the scamdemic and what's come from it. You don't, you know, and all the kids, you know, say it was your final year of school, you're going to graduate. Well, now that's it. You know, we're locking down and screw you. So, I mean, they screwed so many people over for so many reasons in so many ways, and the youth having to come up, you know, live in the fires, live in the smoke, live in the devastation, live in the riots, watch people die, watch people kill themselves, you know, watch everybody, you know, just shut down and live in fear, you know, just the way and you see it with the youth now. I mean, you see what it's caused and how many problems it's caused and what it's caused in so many people. And I mean,
There's
you
no
just,
direction.
yeah, you just see how it all started. Like I said, you know, 2017, with Trump, he was the guy to set this all up, to make this all happen. You know, he's been with all the other Jesuit scumbags, all the steps of the way. And this was the guy everyone, you know, bought. You know, they bought into him. And, you know, how many people went out and, you know, got that jab just because they love Trumpy and Trump told them to do it. So, you know, that's now they're no longer here. So you see how they put this together, and it's come to a point where it's like, yeah, the people that, you know, still support Trump, that, you know, there's some people that just think he's God and they're never going to get off it, you know, or they're going to look to someone else like Bill Gates and think he's their hero or their God, or Elon Musk or whatever. But I mean, if people learn, you know, the Jesuits, and they learned, you know, the Jesuit order, and then this cabal and all these, you know, people on the world stage. People can, you know, look at the Rockefellers, Rothschilds. I mean, they're part of it, but, you know, they're just the bankers. They're not the ones, you know, saying, oh, we're locking down on Friday the 13th, 2020, you know, scary day, you know, Friday the 13th. I mean, cut
Bad
it
luck.
day, right? Like, just look how they did it. And you see how they went about it, you know, just had to mock you with the 56s, you know, Anthony Fauci, 56, and Gavin Newsom, 56%
Toilet paper.
of coronavirus is going to get, you know, COVID in 8 weeks, 56 days, and toilet paper equals 56, and pandemic, COVID 56, and, you
Like,
know,
wasn't it implied that this flu was going to be so bad we're going to be shitting ourselves? Like, what? Where did I don't remember anything ever saying that? But like, why the hell did we all go out and get toilet paper? It's like it makes no sense. It doesn't even actually make sense. The only thing I can think of is like, for some odd reason there was a surplus of toilet paper and they needed to bump their stocks or something, because maybe they needed an excuse to rip down another rainforest, and so they needed paper. So we needed to use up the supply we had in order to get the okay to tear down a new forest, because I don't even understand the whole toilet paper thing.
yeah, I mean, all seeing eye 56. I mean, you know, in the 56 is just, it's amazing how they had all that ready to go, you know, mind control 56. And, you know, they just, I mean, and then they got people to push it like Dr. Oz, like people that watch Dr. Oz, like this loser of a guy on TV. People think he's God and he's going to give you all the right answers. And he's going to push COVID. He's going to push the vaccine, and people are going to get it. You know, just all these, you know, clowns just on the world stage, how
And
they got
that's
people to go along with this. Like I said, if you could just went to the hospitals where they said all this was going on, how bad it was, and just seen that there was nobody there, I mean, you would have had to learn this was all bullshit and this is all a lie. If you just go to the hospital, you'll see for yourself. There's nobody there. There's nothing going on. The place is basically shut down. There's just, you know, and then the fact that if this is a real pandemic, if this was real, people are dying, Uber would not be sending me requests to go to the hospital to deliver the food. That wouldn't even be doable. It would not be done. You couldn't do that. So you got to think about it. That right there tells you this is all bullshit. So everything is telling you this is complete bullshit.
not to
99
mention.
99.9% survival, 666.
Mhm.
I mean, 6 feet apart, you're 6 feet under the ground. Like, come on.
Not to mention, what was I going to say here? Oh yeah, the propellant for these delivery mechanisms. You know, when I was watching it in real time, It's kind of like Tesla is now. I used to think back, I'm like, Tesla's never going to take off like that. Just like in my head, like we're not so stupid that we'll just make them the biggest thing ever. And like the more I look around, even like who can afford these things yet? It becomes these icons and people do it. Well, it's like who could afford Uber Eats? Who could afford Uber everything and DoorDash and all this stuff? They make they figure it out. I'm sure their life's not great in all sorts of other areas, but they are willing to spend an exorbitant amount of money for their food to be delivered. And it's like under the ruse and the guise of under the guise of you don't want to get yourself sick. So get somebody you don't know to go handle your food made by somebody you don't know and you weren't there to see it being made, and then eat it. It's like I don't understand why it's almost like a worse concept to me. But I mean, these things blew up. They're mainstays now. It's almost like a high society thing now to order your food rather than to just go grab it or make it. Or not that you should be going to these restaurants for the most part anyway, but it's just so foolish. It's just layers of foolishness on top of layers of foolishness, and it's just all become melded into what the new norm. And people, can't see how retarded this is based compared to 20 years ago. 20 years is not that long ago. 10 years ago, it's not that long ago where we were not doing this and we were doing just fine. What is going on? Everything's more expensive. Now we have money to get like insane amounts of delivery charges.
Yeah,
for crap food.
Yeah, and even from my perspective, doing Uber and doing Uber Eats, like from then to now, when I started in 2017 compared to now, the biggest thing that's changed, and it's all part of the design of it all is, when I first started, it was always like you meet the person at the door, and there was women people outside back then, and there was when you saw more people were active, and there was more people. You just now when you do delivery, a lot of times it's just leave it at the door. Sometimes you still meet people, see people, they'll come out, you see them, and that's what I was always looking forward to, like customer interacting with people. But it's like now, now it's usually leave it at the door because it's just that there's no more social interaction. You don't see people. You don't. People aren't together anymore. People aren't. It's just, someone else will do it, then they'll leave it, and then I'll deal with it later. Because they got to cut off interaction. It's just, I think this is the biggest thing is they've broke us down, and this is the biggest thing they've when they did COVID, as they just broke down humanity, and they broke down what we are and how we you cover people's faces so people can't see your face. You can't you can't see, you can't react, you don't know what someone's thinking. You don't know what somebody looks like. It's more ways, and then social distance, that 6 feet apart, stay away, and hide. And it's now you look at it, well, there's way less people outside. There's no one for the most part that that like I said, the people I see around here, it's just mainly women and stuff. Like, where are all the guys? Where are all the dudes? Where is everybody that used, come outside 10, 20, 30 years ago? It's just, you just see what they've done. You see how they just shut people down, they put them away. And it's amazing because, like I said, you go back, when I was a kid 20 years ago, 30 years ago, life, you had to interact with people. It wasn't like this. There was no YouTube. We couldn't even do what we're doing right now. There was no internet. This stuff did not exist, and now it does. But the world has just gotten so much worse, and people just haven't caught on, sadly. But it's amazing in the age of information, people still don't know all this. But you see what it's done to society. You see what it's done to people, and that's why you just look at people and how depressed and unhappy everybody looks. I mean, society is just getting curb stomped every way you could be curb stomped. I mean, they're getting beat down. They're getting beat down through the weather. They're being beat down through the weather control, through the water, through the food, through the school, through the programming, just from every angle. And you see, like, the next agenda, next phase of it. I mean, I feel like we're at this pinnacle moment where whatever they do next, I only feel like part of me feels like the way the world would change if we have any hope. It's like it's going to take the worst to happen. People, it's going to take the worst, and out of the worst, somehow people are going to have to get mad enough, frustrated enough, and want to change, and then that's just how it's going to have to happen. From what I see, I mean, because I don't see, like I said, I mean, the younger people. And the sad thing is the younger people know it too. And they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, I don't see much hope and have hope and faith in the future in humanity. I mean, this is what most young people are saying. This is what, and it's sad to say and think that, and I seen it when I was a kid and I said what was coming. I seen all this, but now I'm seeing the younger ones coming up and now they just know it's just done. It's just screwed. And it's really sad. It's really a sad thing to watch.
Well, on that note, I think, providing a little bit of a mission statement moving forward for, what this is all, aiming to do. Of course, I do want to have some, some fun videos. They are going to boil down to us, riffing back and forth, maybe eventually doing some lives as well. That's, on the agenda for us. But we're going to be covering, lots of different topics and in somewhat the same kind of fashion, just riffing what we know, what we have, the gematria lens, of course. Um, on the screen before I leave, I will say anybody who comes across this video, please do come check out Gematria Effect News. That's kind of where me and Austin have kind of linked up. That's how we've gotten to know each other through that community. He recently came to Portland, where I live, and we pounded pavement and kind of talked to the people of Portland downtown with the channel owner here, Zach Hubbard, with the Gematria Effect News, and I encourage you to go check it out and hopefully leave a subscribe and tell him we sent you. But yeah, moving forward, we do hope to get that sense of community that is definitely missing, back to a level. And it's not saying we can do anything global with this, but small steps towards having a better sense of community is going to make your life better. If you have kids, their life better, because that hopelessness and that direction, that no direction, is it's really affecting the youth. And the youth is, that's what we have. The youth eventually will be of voting age, I'll say, never mind voting in the rigged selections, but they'll be of age and they'll be leading this world, for better or for worse. And for us, it's really just, we see what's happening. We feel like we have a voice for as long as we have it, and we intend to use it. And we hope to, spur along anybody else that has, the inklings and the shiver in their spine when they see the bullshit on the news, and it's not just, going straight into their cerebral cortex to be stored and become the next sheep drone for the machine. And truly, dissent can be as easy as I agree that it is revolution or bust, but to start somewhere, I think dissent can be even just just not participating. It doesn't need to be storming any kind of capital or anything, but not to say I would be adverse to that, but I do think it starts, even locally. And as far as Austin, he's out in Tacoma. I'm in Portland. That's just, where we got the I-5 connection, or our main highway there. And hopefully moving forward, there's something, we can get together. We build a sense of community. We have a community. We start getting together. We put numbers out in places. And so people can see that, there's people that are out here, and they have a message, they have something to offer, and we're showing a better way, not a new way, really the old way, but for that kid that's seeing the way the world is and he does feel hopeless, maybe we'll be that spark to say, hey, you know what, there's a community, we get why you're hopeless, you shouldn't be, there's something we can do about it. And if we don't do something about it, it's just, it's going to be all for naught. And for anyone thinking that that their sperm hit that egg so that they could be born and all the, you go watch a video of the formation of an egg into a human and tell me that you were put here to wear a mask, push an agenda, be a slave, be a puppet, be a pawn. You tell me that that's why all that happened. And if you're really truly convinced of that, then be on your way. But if you can still say that with a straight face, then something's wrong with you, because we're not here to do what we're being made to do. And in order to change something, it's got to start somewhere. And I think Austin agrees that we intend to get this message out to as many people to at least start questioning, wake up, join a community, see that there's something better, and don't join the herd that's headed to the slaughter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we just have to do something. I feel like I do as much as I can too. I get out, I pound pavement, and I try and, build and form a community because, I guess the biggest thing is, you have to kind of be your own Illuminati. They run the world because they have, teamwork and cooperation. They're coming together and working together, and humanity is just competing with one another and tearing each other down and, not coming together, working together. And they don't teach you that in school. So that's what's got to happen. And we're at that moment where we have to change the tide in that, because without community, you don't have anything, and you can't go forward. You can't do it without community. It takes, not one person is going to save us or save anything. It takes a collective group to pull it off. And the thing is, if you could get 10, 20 people out to Seattle, to Portland, to pound pavement, yeah, things would change if we could get more people. And that's what needs to happen. And that's the direction I'm going. Because, I'm not here to, quit and walk away and, run for the hills. I want to, keep doing this and doing it, till I'm dead and no longer here. So that's the direction, I want. I'm trying to, we're trying to find people and build a community and have, people that, want to come out, want to pound pavement, want to make a difference, because people just need inspiration to be motivated, and you get that going, and then you can start having, ripple effects in society, and, people do that, every little thing you do does matter. So the little things do matter. So that's just the thing. It's just have to have that sense of community right now. That's the biggest thing going forward, because without community, nothing's ever going to change. And then, we are all that we have. I'll just say that much. We are all that we have. So
It's a great point, and I would say a great place to end it. Thank you to anybody who ends up watching this video and shares and blah blah blah. Main takeaway I would say is, please do visit Gematria Effect News. That's kind of where this, where we've met, and we have some community over there. And if anything's going to blossom, I think it's going to be in large part through Zach Hubbard here, and hopefully we all get the find the legs to stand on and start doing something positive. Even small positive things, get a large enough group doing small positive things, that makes a huge difference. So I'll leave it at that. And this is Unscripted Truth TV signing off. I'm Logan. This has been Austin, and we out.